Welcome back to another episode of CRE, The Unspoken Truth. I'm Charlie Coppola with my dad, Craig. Welcome back. Today, our topic, we're on the Mythbusters part of our podcast here. And today, the myth that we're going to be busting is being a commercial real estate broker is easy if you're good with people, right? If you're a people person. And so start us off. Why is that a myth? Why is that just not true? First off the top of your head.
Well, I can't tell you how many people come and want to interview or meet with me because people have tell them, "Hey, you're good with people, so you should go into commercial real estate." And so I say, "Great. That's a nice start because if you're not a people person, you're not going to do well." But that is just a very, very, very beginning of a start. One of the first things I say, well, how many times have you been rejected in your life? So it's not how good you are with people, it's how good you are with people that don't necessarily want to talk with you or that want to hang out with you or that don't really want to do business with you. So this idea of being good with people is a foundational skill or something, a natural instinct that we would want from somebody because you are spending time with people on a daily basis. Then you have to add a whole bunch of other stuff to it, a
Yep.
whole bunch of other stuff. We talk about this with our runners. There's 6 ways you can fail in being a broker, and one of them is you simply just don't you're not curious enough about people. So it's not like they like you, but are you curious enough to generate trust?
Yeah. And do you think, real estate, I know for sure on the residential side, there's a low barrier to entry. You can get your license and then you can go. Commercial side seems to be a little bit harder to get into, but you don't need a specific degree or real, very, very deep technical skills. If you have your license, you can go. And so I do think, people my age, there is that default, opinion of, hey, I kind of want to get into sales. My dad or my family friend does real estate, I'll give that a shot.
Yeah, I think we're in a big growth market, and we've been doing this commercial real estate brokerage for 40 years, and so now we have kids of family friends or children working with their dads um, in the business, and that's great. That's great, but the the way that you build a business, a career, is not just, hey, I'm going to go into it. And we hear this all the time. Oh, I saw that the Capolas made a lot of money, so therefore you're a nice person, you should go into the business because you'll make a lot of money too. And that's a very high level skill set. It's like we it's just one of the first things that we do. And in our business, it's more about consistency and tenacity and the ability to be able to overcome rejection time and time again, and to have a skill set where you can learn, the ability to be curious. So there's a lot of things that go into it. We can unpack each one of those, but off the top, the myth of, hey, you like somebody so you can get into it. The other thing that's different between commercial and residential is you typically start in residential with your friends and family, and then you'll kind of build your network around that. And ours, it's funny because I didn't grow up in Phoenix. My dad, who went to the University of Arizona, gave me, really, there was only one person in my 40-year career, a guy named Paul Musente, who ended up being a really wonderful client, but he was the only client out of my 4,000 that I actually got because my dad was from Arizona and he went to the U of A. And so the other 3,999 or whatever we're up to now, 4,300 transactions, were all built on myself going out and chasing business, or now our team.
Yeah. So you talk about like, being good with people, but then, okay, you've also have to be able to deal with rejection, people who don't want to talk to you or don't want to go spend a bunch of time with you. How do you deal with that? Tenacity, curiosity. What else within the business itself would it take? Two things come to mind. There is a technical component in commercial real estate. You have to know the numbers. You're dealing with people's businesses. You have to know your way a little bit around that. The second one that I see, just because we talk to brokers through one source about kind of working on their business, improving their systems, is building a business. That is, each independent contractor, each broker is a business owner. That is not nothing about building a business is, hey, I'm great with people. There's a lot more to it. So anything else come to mind on these skills or these parts of the job that people wouldn't, first
Normally
think
see.
of?
Yeah, I think when we bring young people in, the first year of the business, they are spending 70 hours a week learning the craft of the business, what the terms are, how to cold call, canvas, how to commit to find something. So it's literally the first year that they run with us, and the runners are with us 2.5 years. The first year they are behind the scenes. They're back office. They're doing spreadsheets. They're learning the business. They're doing pro-calc analysis. They're doing lease and abstracts. They're doing broker opinion of value. There is a craft to our business. It's not just, hey, Mr. Business Owner, let me represent you on the third largest item on your balance sheet, on your P&L, excuse me, on the third largest item on your P&L besides people, technology, office space, or industrial space. Let me just represent you because I'm a nice guy. That doesn't work. That might get you in the door, might have a conversation, but it's not going to get you the business. So you have to combine a technical aspect along with a likable aspect and put those two together to create a trust. And at that point, if they trust you, and I use this all the time, lots of people like lots of people, but a ton of people trust me. And that's where I really win and where we've won and where we try and teach our people is like learn to develop the trust, not the likability. So there's where the big myth buster is. It's if you would have said, "Hey, if you're really trustworthy and people learn to trust you," then I would have probably said, "That's really strong. You could build a strong business on if a lot of people trust you."
Yeah. And what would you say to someone joining the business early in their career and say, hey, people do like me. I'm good with people. I think I can do that well. Clearly, it's not enough. How do I take that next step? And, I'm 25 years old or whatever it is. How do I get people to trust me? What would you say?
Well, I remember when I was young in the business, like, I'm going to compete with somebody who's been in the business 10 or 15 years. How do I get the business over them? And so you have to look at your strengths and say, well, I work harder than that guy does or that woman does. So I'm going to work a lot harder. I'm going to make sure that your business is important to me. You may not be a big transaction, but to me, you're a super big transaction. So I'm going to make sure that you understand. And then this is my career. This is my chosen path. So I spent a lot of time selling that I was going to do more for them than anybody else would in the business.
Yeah.
And it sold. It sold.
Right.
It worked. But we do find, I'll tell you what we do find a lot of people come into the business and get some success. The success where they come in and they get to where they're making a decent income, and then they hit a ceiling of complexity. And they hit that ceiling of complexity because their systems aren't very good. Our newest partner is Nick Whitehouse. And when he came in, man, the first 6 months, he was a rock star. He was a rock star because he had great follow up. He was super positive. He had all sorts of stuff. And then we put 20 transactions on his plate, and boy, all of his systems fell apart. He was follow up sucked. He didn't do a good job. He was dropping balls left and right because he hit a ceiling of complexity where his systems were built for somebody coming out of college and his first job. And and we're still continually working with him. He's now with us 4 years. We're still working with him to build his systems to be more robust, that he doesn't drop the balls, because the minute you start dropping balls, your business goes down. We talk about thrivers and divers from Lee Brower. You can become a diver really quickly in our business by overpromising, under-delivering, and having systems that fall apart.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hear a lot of things that would drive sale. Someone would be good at sales if they are good with people, they can handle rejection, they're tenacious, they're curious. That would be true for anyone in sales. Anything that would differentiate someone in general sales versus commercial real estate brokerage?
Well, I think in general sales, if you're selling just a product, and we've learned this with OneSource, right? We're selling a product now where people like us and they know that we're doing a good job, but now they also have to like our product as well. And so in our product as a broker is our service delivery.
Mhm.
And so as you start doing transactions, the service delivery becomes your product. So your service, we're selling a service, but really it's service delivery that we do. And so we try to turn our service into a product. And how do we do that? Multiple testimonials. If you look on our team website, we have 250 testimonials. We have people, case studies. I think there's somewhere between 40 and 60 case studies on there. So we want people to feel comfortable that we've done this before. We've been there, done that. And if you haven't done it, if you're new in the business and you haven't done it, get one case study and just say, call Charlie. He will tell you how much I told him the same thing and he used that.
Yeah.
It's to help me.
Yeah. I want to go deep into two of the things that you said early, tenacity and curiosity. Someone who is likable, how can you develop tenacity? And then I'm asking the second question is how can you develop curiosity or grow in that area to connect with people deeper?
I love a lot of things that Professor Scott Galloway says, and one of the things that he says is, the 20s and 30s, or he says the 20s are for you to test your edges, right? You're out there to test edges to see how hard you could work. And tenacity is not something is natural to anybody. If you would have talked to people who knew me in college, they wouldn't have said, "Hey, this is probably the most tenacious broker in the country." They would have said, "Hey, he worked pretty hard. He was okay." But a few things went against me, right? You know that I got released from the Twins. I didn't feel like it was a very good situation when I got released, and I vowed at that point to not let anybody else dictate my career, and that sparked this tenacity that lasted for a long time. Probably some people would say it's still lasting 40 years later. And so we're looking for somebody to develop tenacity over a long period of time. And so the quote we've been using is consistency over intensity, right? It's the idea of showing up every day. And when people can confuse themselves and say, I worked 40 hours this week or 50 hours this week, or they could do it for 6 months, but the seventh month they're down and they're burned out or whatever it is, it's like that didn't happen. That didn't happen to the best brokers, the Kobe Bryants of the world. I'm not necessarily comparing myself to Kobe, but I am comparing our work ethic, and our work ethic, both of those, is unparalleled. And I think that is a very strong indicator of how people are tenacious wise.
Yeah, cool. So tenacity is work ethic plus consistency, really, right?
Over
A
a
long period of
long
time.
period of time. And people like millennials listening to this, a long period is decades. It's not
Yeah,
a
six
year.
months. Yeah.
It's not 3 years.
We talk about this with our interns. It's easy. So the way school is for the first 20 years of your life, it's semester, summer break, semester, winter break. So you can grind for 5 months and then you get a nice break. And then the real world, and it's like, no, you don't get a summer break, right? You got to keep going. So you got to
Yeah.
find what you can manage consistently and keep pushing.
Well, it's interesting that I would say that, and I don't know the specific numbers, but I would say all of our users, and we got a lot of users now on OneSource, they're not the 2 to 3 year guys, gals. They're 5 to 10 years in the business. And these folks are still looking, and probably the majority of people listening to this are 5 to 10 years in the business, have had some success enough to know that they're going to be okay in the business, but they haven't had tremendous amount of success. They haven't broken through that next level of ceiling of complexity. And what we offer them and what they really need is more robust systems, right? To take what they've proven they can do and be able to multiply that. So instead of making 20 calls a week, have a system where they can make 50 calls a week. And that's what Prospects does. If they're running with 10 transactions on a spreadsheet of Excel and they want to double their business to 20 transactions, DealView allows them to do that with a very easy thing. And so we're taking these brokers 5, 10, 15 years in the business and then giving them new skills to back to your systems, new systems that allow them to break through the ceiling of complexity. And it's what we found out, which is really hard because our system is really good, but it takes them wanting to grow and change
Yeah.
and psychologically be better.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working with a lot of our brokers on.
Well, it's a commitment to continuous improvement, right? And a lot of brokers have a little bit of commitment there, but only a few have a lot of commitment. To only a few have really and I know this because I talk to all our customers, and I can list off one that comes to mind is Justin Smith over in
Justin
Lee and
Smith,
Associates.
always
he
growing.
he is always trying, and it's our software, but it's a coach here, it's a program here, a new book here, social media thing, this. He's always experimenting and trying new things. And I think it's cool to watch from my perspective, and I know that it pays dividends for his business because I watch it with your team too. Some of them work really well, a lot of them don't, and you just got to be committed to keep trying new things to improve it.
Yeah, shout out to Justin because he really is a grower. He's a grower.
Yeah,
And I think especially with our business here 2024, this the world's changing. And so if you're not a grower, then you're dying, right? You're diving right now because our business is changing dramatically, especially on the office side of the business. Certainly the last decade for retail brokers as they went away from bricks and mortar and back to bricks and mortar industrial over the last, it's just a really the business changes and you have to grow with it. And a lot of folks, I'll tell you what's really interesting that I found. A lot of people come in, have some success, and then they cap out and they have this plateau of income, what they're doing. They get happy with that. So they've just created another job for themselves. While yes, they might say they're self-managed or they have their own business, but they've just created another job. And we've run into a lot of those folks. And what we really want for them, because this is one of the reasons why we built this, is we really want for them to grow, to give them a system, the new life that they say, and it's really great for us when we hear a broker, and I can't remember his name, who said, I'm now, you can probably bring it out, I'm now reaching the second tier of my clients and
yeah,
not dropping that ball before. And
yeah,
and that to me is like, okay, we're on the right track when we get hundreds of those guys.
right, right. So being a commercial real estate broker is easy if you're just good
Easy.
with people, right? No, wrong, right? So
Wrong.
what else? You got to be able to deal with rejection. You need tenacity, curiosity. You need to be able to build trust, be consistent. And then there's the whole technical, the terminology, the analysis, the service delivery. Your product in real estate is your service delivery, right? And you won't get rehired, you won't get referred if you're not good there. So
Yeah,
it's a
I
lot more
I
to
say
it.
this all the time. An individual broker has his own little business. So that business does what? It does sales and marketing, it does accounting, it does transactional work, it does follow-up skills, it does
Sales.
builds sales,
Yep.
it does service delivery, it does all sorts of things. And so all of these things that a normal business does, and they have a marketing person, and they have an accounting person, and they have somebody who's in sales, and they have somebody who's doing operations. We're doing it all. And so if you're shitty at three of the five or six things I just listed, then you're not going to be a very good broker. You might be okay, but if you're not doing all of them on an adequate basis and some of them in a very good basis, then you're going to need to build a team around you, and you need to have systems. And so the best brokers realize their weakness and either fill it in with somebody else or they start building bulletproof systems.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Great episode here. And until next time, thanks so much.